Glimpse of a Golden Childhood, Osho, Session 4. I was telling you of the moment when I met the astrologer who had now become a sannyasin. I was near about 14 at the time, and with my other grandfather, that is my father's father. My real grandfather was no more. He died when I was only 7. The old bhikkhu, the ex-astrologer, asked me. I am by profession an astrologer, and by hobby a reader of many things. Lines of the hands, of heads, of fear, and so on, of feet, and so on. How could you manage to tell me that I was going to become a sannyasin? I had never thought about it before. It was you who dropped the seed in me, and since then I have been thinking only of sannyas. How did you manage? I shrugged my shoulders. Even today, if someone asks how I manage, all I can do is shrugging, because I do not manage. I told the old man, I just looked into your eyes and saw such a purity that I could not believe that you were not yet a sannyasin. You should have been already. It was already too late. In a sense, sannyas is always too late. And in another sense, it is always too soon. And both are true together. Now it was a turn of the old man to shrug his shoulders. He said, You puzzle me. How could my eyes give the clue? I said, If eyes cannot give the clue, then there is no possibility for any astrology. The whole astrology is certainly not concerned with the eyes. It is concerned with the stars. But can a blind man see stars? You need eyes to see stars. I said to the old man, Astrology is not the science of the stars, but the science of seeing. Seeing the stars, even during the day, in full daylight. Once in a while it happens, when the master hits the disciple on the head. Just this morning, Ashu, do you remember when you were looking at your watch and I hit your head with a Canada Dry soda bottle? Remember now? At the time you missed it. That's what it means to know astrology. She had a little taste of it this morning. I don't think she will ever look at her watch again. But please, look at it again and again, so I can hit you again and again. It was only a beginning. Otherwise, how are you going to freaking forgive me, but always allow me to hit you? This is a strange company here. I am an old Jew. There is a proverb which says, Once a Jew, always a Jew. And I was once a Jew, and I know the truth of that proverb. I'm still a Jew, and sitting by my right side is a 100% Jew, Devagit. And there, by my side near my feet, Devaraj is sitting, partially a Jew. You can see from his nose. And Gudia, if she is still here, is not English either. She has also once been a Jew. For the first time, I want to make it known to you that she is none other than Magdalena. She loved Jesus, but missed him. He was crucified so early, and a woman needs time and patience. And he was only 33. That is the time to play football. Jesus died too soon. The people were too uncruel to him. I mean cruel to him. I wanted them to be uncruel. That's why the word came. Goodyear, this time you cannot miss. Whatsoever you do, I am not Jesus, who could be easily crucified at 33. And I can be very patient, even with a woman, which is hard. That I know, difficult, very difficult at times. A woman can really be a pain in the neck. I have never suffered from a pain in the neck, thank God, but I know pain in the back. Jesus can be found again very easily. People are becoming enlightened all the time. But to find a man like me, who has traveled thousands of ways, in thousands of lives, and has gathered the fragrance of millions of flowers, is difficult. If one misses me, perhaps he misses forever. Just today I received a translation of a new book they are publishing in Germany. I don't know German, so somebody had to translate the part concerned with me. I never laughed so much at any joke. Yet it is not a joke, it is a very serious book. The author devoted 55 pages just to prove that I am only illuminated and not enlightened. Great, just great. Only illuminated, not enlightened. And you will be surprised to know that just a few days ago I received another book from the same category of idiot, a Dutch professor. The Dutch are not very different from the Germans. They belong to the same category. By the way, I must tell you that Gurujev used to divide every person according to a certain plan. He had a few categories of idiots. Now this German and that Dutch fellow, whose name I have forgotten, both belong to the first category of fools. As far as I am concerned, once and for all, let me declare to the world, I am neither illuminated nor enlightened. I am just a very ordinary, simple man, with no adjectives and no degrees. The idiots always ask the same question. It makes no difference. This is the miracle. Everything is different between India, England, Canada, America, but not the idiot. The idiot is universal, the same everywhere. I am not at all concerned whether you believe me to be enlightened or not. What does it matter? But this man is so concerned that in his small book 50 pages are devoted to the question whether I am enlightened or not. I am just myself. Why should I be enlightened or illuminated? And what great scholarship! Illumination is different from enlightenment. I am neither. I am light myself, neither enlightened nor illuminated. I have left those words far, far behind. Those so-called professors, philosophers, psychologists, why are they so concerned about a poor man like me who is not at all concerned with them? I am living my life, and it is my freedom to live it as I want to live it. Why should they waste their time on me? Please, It would have been better to have lived those 55 pages. Perhaps a song to sing or a dance, or just to prepare a cup of tea and silently sip it. The flavor of the tea is far more important than all philosophy. Remember, Ashu, that's why I say only one thing has come out of Canada that is worth mentioning. That is Canada Dry, the soda. It is beautiful. I love it. My mother's father suddenly fell ill. It was not time for him to die. He was not more than 50 or even less, perhaps even younger than I am now. My grandmother was just 50, at the very peak of her youth and beauty. You will be surprised to know that she was born in Khajuraho, the citadel, the ancient-most citadel of the Tantrikas. She always said to me, when you are a little older, never forget to visit Khajuraho. I don't think any parent would give that advice to a child, but my grandmother was just rare, persuading me to visit Khajuraho. Khajuraho consists of thousands of beautiful sculptures, all naked and copulating. There are hundreds of temples. Many of them are just ruins, but a few have survived, perhaps because they were forgotten. When Mukta's daughter Seema came to see me for a moment, I could not believe it, because my grandmother has exactly the same face, the same coloring. Seema does not look European, she is darker, and her face and figure are exactly the same as my grandmother's. I thought my grandmother is dead, otherwise I would have liked Seema to see her. And do you know, even at the age of 80, she was still beautiful. When my grandma died, I rushed from Bombay to see her. Even in her death, she was beautiful. I could not believe that she was dead. And suddenly, all the statue of Khajuraho became alive to me. In her dead body, I saw the whole philosophy of Khajuraho. The first thing I did after seeing her was to again go to Khajuraho. It was the only way to pay homage to her. Khajuraho is incomparable. There are thousands of temples in the world, but nothing like Khajuraho. I am trying to create a living Khajuraho in the ashram. Not stone statue, but real people who are capable of love, who are really alive, so alive that they are infectious, that just to touch them is enough to feel a current in you. My grandmother gave me many things. One of the most important was her insistence that I should go to Khajuraho. In those days, Khajuraho was absolutely unknown, but she insisted so much that I had to go. She was stubborn. Perhaps I got the quality from her. During the last 20 years of her life, I was traveling all over India. Each time I passed through the village, she would say to me, "Listen, never enter a train that has already started, and do not get out of the train before it has stopped. Second, never argue with anyone in the compartment while you are traveling. Thirdly, remember always that I am alive and waiting for you to come home. Why are you wandering all over the country when I am waiting here to take care of you? You need care and nobody can give you the same care as I can. For 20 years continuously I had to listen to the advice. Now I can say to her, don't be worried. At least there is the other word. First, I no longer travel by train. In fact, I no longer travel at all. So there is no question of getting out of the train that has not yet stopped. Secondly, Gudia is taking care of me as beautifully as you. Thirdly, remember that just as you waited for me while you were alive, wait for me still. Soon I will be coming home. The first time I went to Khajuraho, I went just because my grandmother was nagging. When I saw those naked, I cannot say nude. Forgive me, nude is pornographic. Naked is a different phenomenon. In the dictionary, they may mean the same, but the dictionary is not everything. The statues are naked, but not nude. But those naked bodies, perhaps one day man will be able to achieve it. It is a dream. Khajuraho is a dream. Khajuraho. My grandmother was born there. No wonder she was a beautiful woman, courageous and dangerous too. Beauty is always so courageous and dangerous. She dared. My mother does not resemble her, and I am sorry about that. You cannot find any proof of my grandmother in my mother. Nani was such a courageous, and she helped me to dare everything. If I wanted to drink wine, she would simply supply it. She would say, unless you drink totally, you cannot get rid of it. And I know that is the way to get rid of anything at all. Whatsoever I wanted, she arranged. My grandpa, her husband, was always afraid, just like every other husband in the world. A beautiful mouse, loving, but nothing compared to her. When he died in my lap, she did not even weep. I asked, "He is dead. You loved him. Why are you not weeping?" She said, "Because of you. I don't want to weep before a child. She was such a woman, and I don't want to console you. If I start weeping myself, then naturally you will weep. Then who is going to console whom?" I must describe that situation. We were in a block cart going from my grandfather's village to my father's, because the only hospital was there. My grandfather was seriously sick, not only sick but unconscious, almost in a coma. She and I were the only other people in the cart. I can understand her compassion for me. She did not even weep at the death of her husband, just because of me. I said, "Don't worry if you can remain without tears. I can also remain without tears." And believe it or not, a child of 7 remained without tears. Even she was puzzled. She said, "You are not crying." I said, "I don't want to console you." It was a strange group of people in that bullock cart. Buddha, of whom I talked this morning, was driving. He knew that his master was dead, but he would not look inside the block cart. Not even then, because he was only a servant, and it was not his place to interfere in private affairs. A strange company, and Nana was in my lap. I was a 7-year-old child with Dad, not just for a few seconds, but continuously for 24 hours. When we reached the town, my father called the doctor, and can you imagine? My grandmother left. She said, "You educated people are all stupid. He is dead. There is no need to call any doctor. Please burn him as quickly as possible." And she said, "And I'm not going back to that village again." When she said she was not going back to live in the village, it of course meant that I could not go back to see her there again either. But she never stayed with my father's family. She was different. When I started living in my father's village, I lived very mathematically in that town, spending the whole day with my father's family and the whole night with my grandmother. She used to live alone in a beautiful bungalow. It was a small house. My mother used to ask me, "Why don't you stay home at night?" I said, "It is impossible. I have to go to my grandmother, particularly at night when she feels so alone. During the day, she is okay. She is busy and there are so many people around. But at night, alone in her room, she may start crying if I'm not there. I have to be there." I remained there always, every night. During the day, I was at school. Only in the morning and in the afternoon, I spent a few hours with my family. My mother, my father, my uncles. It was a big family and it remained foreign to me. My grandmother was my family and she understood me because from my very childhood, she had seen me grow. She knew as much of me as anyone has ever known. In India, when the festival of lights come, people may gamble. It is a strange ritual. For 3 days, gambling is legal. I told my grandmother, "I want to gamble." She asked me, "How much money do you want?" Even I could not believe my ears. I thought she would say, "No gambling." So then she gave me a 100 rupee note and told me to go and gamble wherever I wanted because one learns only by experience. In this way, she has helped me tremendously. Once I wanted to go to visit a prostitute. I was only 15 years old and had heard that a prostitute had come to the village. My grandmother asked me, "Do you know what a prostitute means?" I said, "I don't know exactly." Then she said, "You must go and see, but first only go to see her sing and dance." In India, prostitutes sing and dance first. But the singing and the dancing was so third rate, and the woman was so ugly that I vomited. I returned home in the middle before the dancing and singing has finished, and before the prostituting had begun. Nani asked, "Why have you come home so early?" It was nauseating. Only later, when I read Jean-Paul Sartre's book, Nausea, did I understand what had happened to me that night. But my grandmother even allowed me to go to a prostitute. I don't remember her ever saying no to me. I wanted to smoke. She said, "Remember one thing. Smoking is okay, but always smoke in the house." Why? Others may object, so you can smoke in the house. I will provide you with cigarettes. She continued to provide me with cigarettes until I said, "Enough, I don't need any more." My nanny was ready to go to any length just to help me experience myself. The way to know is to experience for yourself. It is not to be told. That's where parents become nauseating. They are continuously telling you. A child is a rebirth of God. He should be respected, and he should be given every opportunity to grow and to be not according to you, but according to his own potential. Section 5. I was talking about the death of my nana, my grandfather. Just now I remembered that he had never had to go to a dentist. What a fortunate man. He died with all his teeth intact. And look at me. When you were examining my teeth, I heard you say that one is missing. That was my way during those first years when I lived with my grandfather, and yet I was absolutely protected from punishment. He never said, "Do this, don't do that." On the contrary, he put his most obedient servant, Bura, at my service to protect me. Bura used to carry a very primitive gun with him. He used to follow me at a distance, but that was enough to frighten the villagers. That was enough to allow me to do whatever I wanted. Anything one could imagine, like riding on a buffalo backward, with Buddha following. It was only later on, in the University Museum, I saw the statue of Lao Tzu sitting backwards on a buffalo. I laughed so loudly that the museum director came to me. I said, "Don't bother me, and don't make me laugh anymore. Otherwise I will start crying. Just leave me alone. Nothing is wrong with me. I am just reminded of my childhood. This is the way I used to ride on buffalo. In my village particularly, and all over India, nobody rides on a buffalo. The Chinese are strange people, and this person Lao Tzu was the strangest of all. I was born on the wrong star. I regret that I forgot to ask the great astrologer why I was so mischievous. I cannot live without it. It is my nourishment. I can understand the old man, my grandfather, and the trouble my mischief caused him. The whole day he would sit on his gadi, as the seat of a rich man is called in India, listening less to his customers and more to the complainers. Never have I ever seen the shadow of anger towards me in his eyes. I did everything that 1,000 children could do. In the morning, even before breakfast, I was into my mischief until late at night. Sometimes I would come home so late, 3 o'clock in the morning. But what a man he was. He never said, "You are too late. This is not the time for a child to come home." Not even once. In fact, in front of me, he would avoid looking at the clock on the wall. That is how I learned religiousness. He never took me to the temple where he used to go. I also used to go to that temple, but only when it was closed, just to steal prisms. Because in the temple there were many chandeliers with beautiful prisms. I think by and by I stole almost all of them. When my grandfather was told about it, he said, "So what? I donated the chandeliers, so I can donate others." Nana used to go to the temple every morning, yet he never said, "Come with me." He never indoctrinated me. That is what is great, not to doctrinate. It is so human to force a helpless child to follow your belief. But he remained untempted. I remember perfectly. It was the time that the census was being taken. The officer had come to our house. He made many inquiries about many things. They asked about my grandfather's religion. He said, "Jainism." They then asked about my grandmother's religion. My Nana said, "You can ask her yourself. Religion is a private affair. I myself have never asked her." What a man! My grandmother answered, "I do not believe in any religion whatsoever. All religions look childish to me." The officer was shocked. Even I was taken aback. She does not believe in any religion at all. In India, to find a woman who does not believe in any religion at all is impossible. But she was born in Khajuraho, perhaps into a family of tantrikas who have never believed in any religion. They have practiced meditation, but they have never believed in any religion. It sounds very logical to a Western mind. Meditation without religion? Yes, in fact, if you believe in any religion, you cannot meditate. Religion is an interference in your meditation. Meditation needs no God, no heaven, no hell, and no allurement or pleasure. Meditation has nothing to do with mind. Meditation is beyond it. Whereas religion is only mind, it is within mind. I know Nani never went to the temple, but she taught me one mantra which I will reveal for the first time. It is Jaina mantra, but it has nothing to do with the Jainas as such. It is purely accidental that it is related to Jainism. The mantra is so beautiful, it is going to be difficult to translate it. But I will do my best. First, listen to the mantra in its original beauty. Now my effort as a translation. I bow down to the Arihantas. Arihanta is the name in Jainism, as Bodhisattva is in Buddhism, for one who has achieved the ultimate but cares nothing about anybody else. The Jainas call the person Arahanta who has attained to himself and is so drowned, so drunk in the beatitude of his realization that he has forgotten the whole world. The word Arihanta literally means one who has killed the enemy, and the enemy is the ego, The first part of the mantra means I touch the feet of the one who has attained himself. The second part is Nammo Sittanam Nammo Nammo. This mantra is the Prakriti, not Sanskrit. The Hindu scripture Rig Veda mentions the first mantra, first master of Jainas, Adinatha. That certainly means it is far more ancient than Rig Veda. Rig Veda is the oldest book in the world, and it talks about the Jaina Tritankaras. Adinatha with such respect that one thing is certain, that he could not have been a contemporary of the people writing Rig Veda. It is difficult to recognize a contemporary master. His fate is to be condemned from all quarters, in all possible ways. He is not respected. He is not a respectable person. It takes time, thousands of years, for people to forgive him. Only then do they start respecting him. When they are free of the guilt of having condemned him once, they start respecting him, worshipping him. The mantra is Prakriti, Prakrit, raw and unrefined. The second line is Nammo Sitaram Nammo Nammo. I touch the feet of the one who has become his being. So what is the difference between the first and the second? The Arihanta never looks back, never bothers about any kind of service, Christian or others. The Siddha, one is in a while holds out his hands to drowning humanity. Once in a while holds out his hands to drowning humanity, but only once in a while. Hence the third, Nammo Uvajayanam Nammo Nammo. I touch the feet of the masters, this Uvajaya. They have achieved the same, but they face the world. They serve the world. They are in the world and not of it, but still in it. The fourth, Nammo Loye Sappha Sahunam Nammo Nammo. I touch the feet of the teachers. You know the subtle difference between a master and a teacher. The master has known and imparts what he has known. The teacher has received from one who has known and delivers it intact to the world. But he himself has not known. The composers of this mantra are really beautiful. They even touch the feet of those who have not known themselves, but at least are carrying a message of the Master. Number 5 is one of the most significant sentences I have ever come across in my whole life. It is strange that it was given to me by grandmother when I was a small child. When I explain it to you, you will see the beauty of it. Only she was capable of giving it to me. I don't know anybody else who had the guts to really proclaim it, although our Jainas repeat it in their temples. I touch the feet of all those who have known themselves, without any distinction whether they are Hindus, Jainas, Buddhists, Christians, Mohammedans. The mantra says, I touch the feet of all those who have known themselves. This is the only mantra, as far as I know, which is absolutely non-sectarian. The other 4 parts are not different from the 5th. They are all contained in it. but it has a vastness which those others do not have. The fifth line must be written on all the temples, all the churches, because it says, I touch the feet of all those who have known it. It does not say who have known God, even though it can be dropped. I am only putting it in the translation. The original simply means touching the feet of those who have known. No, it. I am putting it in just to fulfill the demands of your language. Otherwise, someone is bound to ask, known? Known what? What is the object of the knowledge? There is no object of knowledge. There is nothing to know, only the knower. This mantra was the only religious thing, if you can call it religious, given to me by my grandmother, and that too, not my grandfather, but my grandmother. Because one night I asked her. One night she said, "You look awake. Can't you sleep? Are you planning tomorrow's mischief?" I said, "No, but somehow a question is arising. Everybody has a religion, and when people ask me, to what religion do you belong? I shrug my shoulders. Now certainly shrugging your shoulders is not a religion. So I want to ask you, what should I say?" She said, "I myself don't belong to any religion, but I love this mantra, and this is all I can give you. Not because it is traditionally Jaina, but only because I have known its beauty. I have repeated it millions of times, and always I have found a tremendous peace. Just the feeling of touching the feet of all those who have known. I can give you this mantra. More than that is not possible for me." Now I can say that woman was really great, because as far as religion is concerned, everybody is lying. Christians, Jews, Jainas, Mohammedans. Everybody is lying. They all talk of God, heaven and hell, angels and all kinds of nonsense, without knowing anything at all. She was great, not because she knew, but because she was unable to lie to a child. Nobody should lie to a child. At least it is unforgivable. Children have been exploited for centuries just because they are willing to trust. You can lie to them very easily and they will trust you. If you are a father or mother, they will think you are bound to be true. That's how the whole of humanity lives in corruption. In a thick mud, very slippery, a thick mud of lies told to children for centuries. If we can do just one thing, not lie to children, and to confess to them our ignorance, then we will be religious, and we will put them on the path of religion. Children are only innocents. Leave them, not your so-called knowledge, but you yourself must first be innocent, unlying, true, even if it shatters your ego. It is bound to shatter. My grandfather never told me to go to the temple to follow him. I used to follow him many times, but he would say, "Go away. If you want to go to the temple, go alone. Don't follow me." I knew Bodhidharma personally. I traveled with the man for at least 3 months. He loved me just as I loved him. You will be curious to know why he loved me. He loved me because I never asked him any question. He said to me, "You are the first person I have met who does not ask a question, and I only get bored with all the questions." I said, "There's a reason." "What is that?" I only answer, "I never question. If you have any question, you can ask me. If you don't have a question, then keep your mouth shut." We both laughed because we both belonged to the same category of insanity. He asked me to continue the journey with him. But I said, "Excuse me, I have to go my own way, and from this point, it separates from yours." He could not believe it. He had never invited anyone before. I said, "Now you know how it feels to be refused. I wanted to give you a taste of it. Goodbye." But that was 14 centuries ago. I could remind the German of a few later editions of Gujev, who was alive just a few years ago. He should have seen Gujev, and then he would have known how an enlightened or illuminated person behaves and speaks. If he is only concerned with Indian enlightenment, which seems to dominate these idiots, otherwise what has India got to do with it? Enlightenment has happened everywhere. I have always spoken the way I like. I am nobody's slave. And I don't care what these idiots think about me. It is up to them. They can think that I am enlightened. They can think that I am illuminated. They can think I am ignorant. They can think whatever they want. Just by the way, Ashu, because you were sad, you brought these idiots in. Never be sad again. Now we are finished with this German and sadness. It was a total separation. We will not meet again. Yet there was a beauty in it. He made it more beautiful by repeating the mantra. He made it more prayerful. It became fragrant. He was old and dying. I asked him in his ear, "Nana, have you something to say to me before you depart? Any last words? Or do you want to give me something to remember you by forever?" He took off his ring and put it in my hand. "That ring is with some sannyasi now. I gave it to someone, but that ring was always a mystery. His whole life he would not allow anybody to see what was in it. Yet again and again he used to look into it. That ring had a glass window on both sides that you could look through. On top was a diamond. On each of its side there was a glass window. He had not allowed anybody to see what it was that he used to look at through the window. Inside there was a statue of Mahavira, the Jaina Tirthankara, a really beautiful image and very small. It must have been a small picture of Mahavira inside, and those two windows were magnifying glasses. They magnified it, and it looked really huge. It was of no use to me because, I am sorry to say, even though I have tried my best, I have never been able to love Mahavira as much as I love Buddha. Something is missing in Mahavira, and without it, my heart cannot beat for him. It looks exactly like a stone statue, Buddha looks more alive, but not up to my standards of aliveness. That's why I want him to become a Jorba too. If he meets me somewhere in the other world, there is going to be great trouble. He is going to shout at me, "You wanted me to become a Jorba." But I know how to shout far better. He cannot shut me up. I am going to have my own way. If he does not want to become a Jorba, that is his own business. But then his world is finished. He has no future. If he wants a future, then he has to listen to me. He has to become a Jorba. Neither can Jorba exist alone. He will end in Hiroshima, nor can Buddha exist alone. In the future, there is no possibility of their being separate. The future psychology of man needs to be a bridge between materialism and spiritualism, between East and West. Someday the world will feel grateful that my message is reaching to the West. Otherwise, seekers have been going to the East. This time, a living Buddha's message has come to the West. The West does not know how to recognize a Buddha. It has never known a Buddha. It has known only partial Buddhas, a Jesus, a Pythagoras, a Diogenes. It has never known a total Buddha. It is not surprising that they are arguing about me. Do you know what they are publishing in the Indian newspaper? They are publishing a story that I may be abducted by some enemies, and that my life is in danger. I am here now, and they are not really concerned about me. What stories people invent? I may be abducted by some enemies, and now my life is in danger. I was telling you that my grandfather gave me his ring. With tears in his eyes, he said, "I don't have anything else to give you because all that I have will be taken away from you too. Just as it has been taken away from me. I can only give you my love for one who has known himself. Although I did not keep his ring, I have fulfilled his desire. I have known the one, and I have known it in myself. In a ring, what does it matter? But the poor old man, he loved his master, Mahavira, and he gave his love to me. I respect his love for his master and for me. The last words on his lips were, 'Don't be worried because I am not dying.' We all waited to see if he was going to say something else, but that was all. His eyes closed, and he was no more. I still remember that silence. The black cart was passing through a river bed. Exactly remember each detail. Can you believe it? She sang a song. That's how I learned that death has to be celebrated. She sang the same song she had sung when she was in love with my grandfather for the first time. She said, "It is strange that you should mention it, because he did. I refused him, and not only him, but many others too." In those days in India, girls were married when they were 7, or at most 9 years of age. Just the fear of love. If they are older, they may fall in love. But my grandmother's father was a poet. His songs are still sung in Khajuraho and nearby villages. He insisted that unless she agreed, he was not going to marry her to anybody. As chance would have it, she fell in love with my grandfather. I asked her, "That is even stranger. You refused the king of Chihatarpur, and yet you fell in love with this poor man. Why? He was certainly not very handsome, not extraordinary in any other way. Why did you fall in love with him?" She said, "You are asking the wrong question. Falling has no why to it. I just saw him and that was it. I saw his eyes and a trust arose in me that has never wavered." I had also asked my grandfather, "Nani says she fell in love with you. Why did you allow the marriage to happen?" He said, "I am not a poet or a thinker, but I can recognize beauty when I see it. I never saw a more beautiful woman than my Nani. I myself was in love with her, and loved her throughout her whole life. When she died at the age of 80, I rushed home and found her lying there dead. They were all just waiting for me because she had told them that they should not put her body on the funeral pyre until I arrived. She had insisted that I set light on her. To put the fire to her body was the most difficult task. It was as if I was putting fire on one of the most beautiful paintings. Of course, to me she was more valuable than the Mona Lisa. It is not an exaggeration. All that is beautiful in my vision somehow comes through her. She helped me in every way to be the way I am. Without her, I may have been a shopkeeper. Because when I passed my matriculation, my father was so poor. It was difficult for him to send me to the university. But he was even ready to borrow money in order to do it. He was utterly insistent that I go to the university. I was willing, but not to go to medical college, and I was not willing to go to engineering school. I flatly refused to be a doctor or an engineer. I told him, "If you want to know the truth, I want to be a sannyasin, a hobo." He said, "What, a hobo?" I said, "Yes, I want to go to the university to study philosophy so that I can be a philosophical hobo." He refused, saying, "In that case, I am not going to borrow money and take all that trouble." My grandmother said, "Don't you worry, son. You go and do whatsoever you want to do. I am alive and I will sell everything I have just to help you to be yourself. I will not ask where you wanna go and what you want to study." She never asked, and she sent me money continuously, even when I became a professor. I had to tell her that I was now earning for myself and I should rather send her money. She said, "Don't worry, I have no use for this money, and you must be using it well." People used to wonder where I got all the money from to purchase my books, because I had thousands of books. Even when I was just a student in high school, I had thousands of books. She went on giving money to me. You will be surprised to know that even the month she died, she had sent the usual money to me. On the morning of the day she died, she had signed the check. You will also be amazed to know that was the last money she had in the bank. Perhaps somehow she knew that there was not going to be any tomorrow. I am fortunate in many ways, but I was most fortunate in having my maternal grandparents and those early golden years.